So at the end of lesson 7, we had created this plot which tells us something about the functional form. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to use this particular plot for analysis of the assumptions in the supplemental appendix, meaning we need to create another plot to use in the analysis section of our write-up. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a box plot of the predicted probabilities. We're going to compare the predicted probabilities of the null category versus those of fire control, search and rescue, and fire rescue hazard. Those are the significant parameters. And so let me show you those again. So if we go back up to our model results, we have positive betas, very small standard errors, and we have significant parameters for all three of those: FCNR, SNR, and FRH, fire rescue hazard. And so we're going to plot those. And to plot them, we're going to use not these interacted variables. We'll go back and we'll use the categorical variables. So we'll use FC, SNR, and FRH. The other thing that we need to remember is the construction of our null category. And if we went with our null category, right, so we set our null category as IIE because it was big, it had some injuries, and it essentially was a good theoretical null because it was the act of showing up and investigating an incident, and so it was sort of a good baseline. In running the initial model, we got rid of two other variables, EMS and assistance, because there wasn't any variance on the dependent variable. We didn't have any injuries associated with those. So in presenting or plotting the null category, we're going to combine that IIE measure, this EMS category, and the assistance category. And we're going to create an ordinal variable, essentially, or not an ordinal, just a categorical, and then we'll do a box plot off that basis. So first, let's start with transform. We're going to compute a variable. We're going to call it assistance, or actually not assistance. We're going to call it action. I'm thinking about assistance from that other one. Equals 1. So action is going to equal 1 if one of the following scenarios is true. We're going to say if, and remember, we're working with these initial dichotomous categories here. We're not working with the interacted ones, which are continuous. These are just dichotomous measures. If IIE equals 1, or EMS equals 1, or assistance equals 1. And if any of those three things is true, we're going to say action type equals 1. So the action 1 is going to be essentially the null category, which is useful for our purposes. Good. So let's go down here to click OK. We'll create a variable. And if we go and look at our data out at the very end, we should have a lot of action types. Now the interesting thing about this is the action type is, and we coded that from 3 different variables, so we don't have clearly distinct categorical observations. So these 86 values are investigate, right? Show up and investigate, and they're often paired with some other function. So when we code our variables, we have to actually do two recoding processes, and I'll show you what those are. We're going to go to transform. We're going to go to recode into the same variables, and so what we'll do is we'll go to all the way down in this variable we just created, and we're going to say the old values and new values are going to be this. We're going to say system missing is going to equal 2. This is going to be our next category. And then we're going to put a conditional with it. We're going to say if FC equals 1. So that all the fire control events where there wasn't a corresponding code to IIE, investigate, and show up and investigate, that any of those will code as a value of 2. Okay, good. So that'll pick up any of those not currently identified by the null category. Then we need to go back and we need to recode into the same variables. We need to change this again. We need to delete that. We need to click on the old value This is weird. I don't know why this is doing that. There's some sort of bug. The system is really unstable today, and so I don't know what the problem is here. But what we'll do is we'll just say 1. We'll put a 1 there, and we'll put a 2 there. I think it'll pop up. It did. It's just this window has got a bug in it, so if you put something in there, it'll show up. So any of those that were in the null category and had a value of fire control, we're going to code that as a 2. Okay. So what we have is action. We're going to recode into that. Old values, we're going to recode null category values into 2 if FC equals 1. Okay. And the rest of these are going to work just like this. We are going to go in and continue our recoding process. So let's transform recode into same variables. And this time we're going to get rid of this one. And it's back again. I don't know why it's back. So this time we'll go into system missing equals 3. And we'll add that one. And we'll do that for those cases system missing equal 3 for those cases where search and rescue equals 1. So click in there. So we have action. We're going to recode that variable. We're going to change system missing to 3 for those cases where search and rescue equals 1. For in those instances where there's not in the null category, we'll change all of those over to SNR at this point. Okay, good. Now we'll do the next step of that, transform, recode into same variables. And here we're going to get rid of this one. We're going to remove it, and it goes to and does the same thing again. We're going to change 1 to 3 and add. For whatever reason, this blanks. It's a coding bug in this system. I'm going to continue, and we're going to do that in those instances where SNR equals 1. And click OK, and it'll run it again. Finally, we'll just do the last one. I'm going to recode into same variables. We're going to remove this. We're going to go system missing equal to 4. Continue. And here we're going to do that fire rescue hazard one, that last significant one that we had. So continue there. Again, we're going to make system missing equal 4. Click OK, should run, and do the last step. Transform, recode into same variables, old and new values. We're going to remove that one. We're going to put up here, we'll put 1 in there again, we'll put 4 in this one, and add there and continue to do it. Okay, good. Now what we have is that last pairing. You can look at the output here, and it'll tell you exactly what we did. If fire control equals 1, recoded action into system missing 2. If fire control equals 1, we recoded action 1 equal 2. So we picked up any that weren't in the null category already, and then we put any that were in the null category into the fire control. Did the same thing here for search and rescue, and then fire rescue hazard we did as well. That created a categorical variable out here, and you'll see it. So we still have some missing category ones. Those are ones for hazard and everything else, but we're not necessarily interested in those because they had insignificant parameters. One thing we want to do, though, is let's go ahead and set up the values on these just so that when we plot them, they'll come in already. Add value 2 is going to be fire control. Value 3 is going to be value 4 is going to be find that one. Click OK. We're good. Alright, so the last thing we need to do here is we need to create a plot and then make it a little bit clean. So I'll go ahead and stop here and then run it.